Vanakkam, Dr. Kamal Haasan.
Vanakkam.
I'm Charanya Kannan, a student of Harvard Business School, and it's my pleasure to welcome you here today. We're so honored you're here sitting with us. So I'm not going to introduce him today because I'm sure all of you know who he is. That's why I guess all of you are here. So I will directly jump into the question and answer session. So this event is going to be slightly different from most of the other interviews we largely see of him so far, in the sense that even though there will be a large cinema undercurrent to most of the questions, we will try and explore another angle of Dr. Kamal Haasan that we possibly do not get to see otherwise. He is extremely erudite. He's an intellectual who is well versed with politics, economics, history, sociology. So we will just ask him a lot of questions that probably ties back to cinema, but has to do with the larger social context as well. So my first question to you, because we didn't do an introduction, I wanted to understand the construct of your name a little better. You're from Tamil Nadu, which has a patronymic surname culture. I'm surprised you're not Kamal Haasan Srinivasan and you're Kamal Haasan, and Haasan is actually your second name. I would have assumed Kamal Haasan was your first name itself. So when did Haasan become your second name, and why is it not Srinivasan?
My father is an interesting man, so bordering on quirky. so he named his children. The first child was obviously the first idea, Charu Haasan. And then he named the second child Chandra Haasan, the third Mrinalini, very unlike the names that are found around. But I should have been, I was born around the time I was 50. I should have been actually called Oops Haasan. Then they decided on Kamal Haasan. And it's a Sanskrit derivative, Charu being Krishna, moon, and Krishna, Charu is Krishna, and Chandra, moon, and Hasya comes from humor, and Haasan is the one who smiles. It's a name like Dances with the Wolves, but only the other kind of Indian. So that's how he named, and then it was I who asked my father that I'd like to take forward instead of being called Yes Kamal Haasan.
Yeah.
That's how my school and I took my father's permission, and being a lawyer, he made it all very legal and changed my name in the Gazette. Now from me starts the Haasan line actually.
Okay. That's interesting. So I'll easily address you as Dr. Haasan.
And people usually mistake me to be a Muslim, and my father said, don't clarify. let the ambiguity be there. He's a staunch congressman who's seen and met Gandhi from afar. And I mean, it's not like a handshake friendship, but he was affected by the man's philosophy, and so he let it be. And he never clearly said, no, he's not a Muslim, or he's not a Hindu. Let the ambiguity stay. Even now I don't correct when people misspell my name as Hassa.
Yeah.
But you'll have to be careful. That was one of the reasons why I was detained in Canada.
So we are right now seated in Harvard Business School, which is sort of at the helm of capitalism. So you have a recurring theme of Marxism in your movies, and I have read somewhere that you've read Das Kapital several times.
Try to.
Try to. So I was wondering, what's your interpretation of Marxism, and how do you think Marxism is relevant in this particular context where capitalism has been largely successful across the world?
So every book is relevant for a while. To quote Richard Dawkins, gods have expiry dates. So then you can imagine about books. All books have to be updated, rewritten. And if anyone claims, no, this book was never updated, that's a lie. All successful books, the largest printed book has been updated once by James, and before by Bishop Athanasius, rewrote. So I think even Das Capital would be, I hope, one day would become redundant. If Spartacus had won, then both Mr. Marx and Christ would have spoken differently on different subjects, approached the same matter from another angle.
So, do you think? I wanted to also understand your interpretation of Marxism. If you could break it down for us, because most of us are not familiar with that, given that we grew up in a capitalistic world.
It's we almost talk the same thing now. Now Russia is state-sponsored capitalism from China. Seems to be right. They give it another name and then flog it again. So you can't explain Marxism like that. There is no quick fix Marxism. Like there's no quick fix Bhagavad Gita or quick fix Veda. It's like that. It's a huge book which talks about, and it's written not in Russia, but the gentleman was sitting in England and writing it. Okay. He even had time for a duel. Okay. So that was the time he was living in. Marx and Engels, the first time they wanted to unite all the people, call them, give them a name. I'm talking about the nascent stage when they were writing. They wanted to say, brothers of the world unite. And then they found that it sounded very Christian. So they changed it to workers of the world unite. So I think communism, capitalism, or even, let's say, democracy as practiced in various countries are not the same animal. It's different. Athens speaks of it differently. Rome, now USA and India, they all use it from a different perspective. What is useful for society? Yeah. Marxism is useful even today. If you have it in, like I said, in a buffet, it should be a necessary part of a buffet and use it when required. And I think that's how it should be. I wouldn't settle either for democracy or totally for communism. We must keep changing it so that the poorest man is also benefited. Not through dole, but by the sheer construct of the society and economy.
Okay. So I now call Hari Ganesh.
Dr. Haasan, thank you for being here. I'm student of Kennedy School here. So, question from the angle. So, people would say Indian cinema, especially South Indian cinema, has had a strong nexus between politics and cinema in history. And that's had a strong impact on the state, on every aspect of our life in South India, I would say. What is your view on whether this is good, bad, and how do you see this evolving going forward?
Well, it's too late to talk about it now. It's done. So we'll see what sort of drove them to the idea of using cinema. They were basically a group which found it necessary to gather together to be heard, the Dravidian groups, because it was either controlled from north or by the upper crust of the caste system. So there was a large majority left out. So the so-called Dravidian parties was a naturally evolved social anger. And they needed anything, any new podium to talk through. And they had already decided to keep away from religion. They were rationalists. So that is a fantastic medium they lost, because through that you could speak a lot, through the church, through the temple. So they were looking for an alternative, and they saw what was happening in Europe, especially what Goebbels did with it. And probably that's what gave them that, Mazzini and all those people. So that must have been the thing, because you can quickly, if you look at the construct of the design, the way they approach, It is not a comment on their philosophy or their ideology, but even the flag color imitated the Nazi red and black because it was so powerful, and so they almost thought, some Indians thought that Hitler will come and change India and break their shackles from. They didn't know that new chains would be put on. They expected, and especially some naive Brahmins thought when he spoke about Aryans, they'd be included in the upper echelon yet again when Germany wins the war. So there was a lot of misconcept, and these people, the DMK, they thought about it, and some of them were artists, the top leaders were writers, and they cleverly used the medium. And then from then on, it became the order of the day. Every politician, now it's not even about cinema, everyone wants to own a satellite.
Thank you for the very thoughtful response. Just as a quick follow, how do you see this evolving? I think people's, mentalities or preferences have changed over time, but this nexus is weakened to some extent, perhaps, in that regard. How do you see this in the next 10 years?
Yeah, because now the so-called rationalism is fading, because they're trying to, instead of ideology, it's about getting the votes. So there are many disillusioned or converted rationalists in both the parties. It's no more that as the main theme. So there are, actually they attend Ganapati Pujas and stuff like that. If I had told this 40 years back, I would have been, there have been bitter criticism, probably even violence. But now that is the truth. But there are people who enjoyed being allied to them are now disappointed. I'm one of them.
Arvind Krishnan had an interesting follow-up question to this.
So this is actually very linked to your topic of discussion yesterday of freedom of expression. So there's been a recent controversy around the censor board in India. There's been mild controversy about the high-handedness, what they cut and and whatnot. So now there's news that you and Sushant Benegal have formed a committee to revamp the censor board. So what do you think is going to be the role of the censor board going forward? How do you see that evolving? What is your kind of opinion?
See, over the time, constant uproar against censor. I mean, post-independent India, the word censor itself sounded off-key. So it took us nearly 30 years to remind them that censor was done for a particular purpose by the British government, and we don't need it. The church used to censor Italian films, and we don't need it now. And so they changed it from censor board into certification board. But still, the tendency to tell the way to live or way to make movies by those who don't even know how to do the job was recurring again and again. And they not only spoiled the work of art, as everyone tends to believe the film is, they started tampering with it, and people like me made noises, why don't you do that with cigarettes? If you're so morally, ethically right about that, why don't you stop them? At least cut the length of the cigarette. So there'll be, why don't you use your scissors there? So there was no answer, and do you tell anyone how much diclofenac you can use on cattle to be butchered? Nobody says that. So a limping cattle is no good for a cow or holy cow, bison, whatever it is. Is not good for meat. By certain religious communities won't like to eat a maimed animal. So what businessmen did was shoot it with diclofenac. Doctors recommended that, veterinary colleges helped them. Then we had buzzards dying. They could be feeding on the carcasses. So they could work on those things if they're truly concerned about this. They're worried about cinema. This is the only dog held by such tight leash. The other industries, or even our tickets are priced by the government, which I think is none of the business. They don't say that to Coca-Cola or Pepsi. Why would you say that to cinema?
Is it because you have greater influence in terms of how you can shape what the society thinks?
Yeah, I'm not going to pay for their paranoia. As a businessman, I say if you're frightened, work on it through some other thing, use better technique, another strategy. But this is tampering with business. And Censor Board is trying to tell adults how to live a life. They're talking in a land of Vatsaina. Can I have some water? In the land of Vatsaina, you're trying to tell how much euphemism you'll have to use when you talk about anatomical parts of the body. We are now here asking for the right to use expletives in cinema, because that's important, because James Joyce and other authors had the right to do what they want, and we are also the other medium, which could be as important as them for tomorrow's generation.
Sagar, you had an interesting follow-up to this question.
Thank you, sir, for being here. So my question was more about the moral responsibility that actors have, because given the influence they have on society, it's very likely that people who idolize them are likely to follow their actions. And so where in the movie you depict a person chasing a woman who's not interested, and then eventually the woman gets convinced, is that in some way like telling people that it's all right to do that? And as an extension, like for context, I was listening to Imran Khan speak earlier, and he said it's easy to cast the film industry in that light because we are an easy target. But it's also because the film industry is so much in the limelight and so prominent that people are much more likely to follow you as a celebrity or as an actor. I mean, your actions than a CEO or a sports person, I guess.
Well, because we tell a story. Cricket is just a game.
Yes.
And we tell a story, so it's more absorbing, and even the church podiums use story. Even the greatest story ever told is a story. So the stories seem to influence. So you're right in a way. If that is the case, then the writers of Mahabharata should have been more careful. They've handed it down to me. And I'm only following a tradition where you're talking about a guy trying to woo a girl. At least there is an attempt. Here they're gambling her away. So that's the story I'm born with. It's sort of, as we say, karna parampara. It's sort of whispered into my ear. If you look at it, you can go back and blame it, but that's not what we are trying to do now. What we are trying to do is we, as citizens, look at the topical situation now. I mean, it's not temporary, but existing situation and where it's going. And what is going to happen to the society as I've known it. You keep talking about culture, we all do. But we keep changing the tenets of that so-called culture and kalacharam and Tamil, karpu and all that. Everything, the definition keeps changing every 10 years. So what do I do as a filmmaker? So I want my film to live longer than 10 years. So somewhere I feel a writer, an artist, can have a lasting effect. That's why temples used art. They wanted to have a lasting effect on people. You're right, we do have a responsibility. But it doesn't stop just with chasing or not chasing girls. There's inherent respect that you have to give your cohabitant in the world, women, men.
Exactly, yeah.
It applies to, and censor board has a rule that even in anger, a person is not supposed to call another person dog. Well, how do I dramatize the scene then? That's why, that's why if somebody is angry, they can't be very Lucknowi and say that, Tashrif le jaiye yahan se. So it doesn't sound right to me, it doesn't sound natural. I envy the American actor, I envy Scarface, who talks like a thug in a film. I'm not able to create a character because you are giving me a school child-like curriculum to work with or tenets to work with. So that's what we are fighting against in the censor board, to give more freedom. I'm so glad that a filmmaker like Shyam Benegal Saab is there, because today he cannot make Ankur. I told him that. We've come to a position where a young Shyam Benegal cannot make even a version of Ankur. So it's sort of the area of operation is shrinking. So we've tried to break out and make it easy for at least tomorrow's filmmakers. Our life is done almost.
While we are in the topic of the freedom of making the movies however you want, Deepthi had an interesting question to follow up with that.
Thanks, Charanya. Actually, when she gave us the opportunity to talk to you in such an intimate setting, the first question that came to my head was to ask you, Munnadi, Pinnadi, But since we are on the topic of freedom of expression, we do want to keep it a little intellectual here. I want to ask you about Twitter. You recently joined Twitter, and what do you expect from this meeting? How do you think you'll be able to express yourself and reach out to your fans, reach out to your audience, and convey whatever you want to? And a follow-up to that, like you said, artists have a huge influence on their admirers. So how do you define what are your moral boundaries? How much can you say on such a meeting? Because we had your peers, the singer Abhijit, who made a very outlandish comment when the Salman Khan verdict came out. And that can kind of influence a lot of people around him. And that similar incident can happen with anybody. So how do you express yourself on Twitter, and what would be the boundaries you draw for yourself on such a media, if at all?
It depends what kind of street I walk in, the language I speak. I might not say excuse me in a particular street. So it will change. So I'm not saying that I'm the gentleman who doesn't know these expletives. But this is not a place to do that, but there might be a place where I want to do it in my script, not necessarily in a quarrel. There I become even more guarded, even more respectful, because I don't want to draw first blood. In today's society, drawing first blood is not the right thing to do, not even the legal thing to do. So that's very medieval to think that take your first punch. You must avoid that violence whenever we can, and that's my thought. And that's how I'll behave. But that doesn't stop another guy from behaving. You cannot tell him how to be. He must understand how to be. You cannot tell him. If you tell him, the rebellion is only going to spread. He must understand. Like yesterday I was quoting Brando's film. There are some rebels without cause. They pick what they want. And they will grow up. And instead of trying to make the whole thing, I mean, you can't have the whole sidewalk with handrails for people to walk. There'll be those who'd like to backflip on a sidewalk. Let them do it. You won't do it because you have to put your hand where other people put their feet. You think about that. But the joy of a somersault is more important to that man. So he must be allowed to do that. I mean, the freedom of expression, freedom itself is the right to make mistakes and then realize it. So I think it will be happening. You can't keep parenting your peer. That becomes insulting for him also. I came into Twitter because I'm a slow learner. That's why.
So, Mohit, do you want to go next?
Sure. So, Dr. Haasan, a lot of times media plays a lot of different kind of news, be it positive and negative, and this is spontaneous reaction of your fans, of your audiences. How rewarding or painful is it for you to hear the reactions, and how does it influence your motivation level towards the cause that you work for?
Yeah, well, I've stopped. I learned it from my mentor, who used to get his blood pressure up reading a review. He thinks it's a personal affront. I'm good, and how could this be written? And he wants to challenge it. I said, you cannot, sir, please, it's about your health. And they have no right to correct your paper because they have no education for it. So why are you so concerned when some critic who doesn't know cinema is talking about your cinema? So it will affect. But I have become part of the conversation because I learned to mock myself into action. So any kind of mockery is not new to me. I can do worse about myself. So I'm one up on them there. And I can give them a more interesting line than that. There is a beautiful sequence in Rostan's Cyrano de Bergerac when he teaches the other man how to insult him. You don't have the wit even to insult me. So he gives him lines.
You say if you talk about the overall industry, like the movie industry, be it Bollywood or regional cinemas, how do you see other people getting impacted through this? How do you see other people in the movie industry, cinema industry getting impacted?
No, it's like that's why I started with my guru, mentor, Mr. Balachandra. Everybody reacts in one way. Some people take offense, some people commit suicide because they can't take the pressure coming from there. They're offended. An embarrassing question can be easily warded off. I mean, a gentleman like Gandhi will teach you how to do that. Somebody asked him in London as he came in, aren't you a little too underdressed to meet the Queen? For which he said, but she's dressed for all of us put together. Including the Kohinoor diamond he meant. So that's the way to handle it.
Sure, thank you.
So, because you brought up Balachandar, sir, over here, I just want to ask you a question about how Balachandra's movies largely had women-centric movies, and for me, it's so contrasting that you started off with him, and most of your movies will not clear the Bechdel test. So the Bechdel test, probably for the uninitiated, it's a test for movies which sort of helps you to measure how women are portrayed in movies, and for a movie to clear the Bechdel test, it has to pass 3 distinct criteria. The first one is that there have to be 2 women who are named. The 2 women have to talk to each other, and the third criteria is that the 2 women have to talk to each other about something else other than the hero of the movie. So, if we apply this criteria, you did take Magalir Mattum, but that was a one-off, and you do give meaty roles once in a while, like Devar Magan or Trisha's role in Tungavanam. So, it does come once in a while, but why is this not a continuous trend in your movies? Is it because your fans want to see you as the centerpiece of the movies?
No, very simple. I'm not a woman. That is the simple thing. I understand this side of the story better. However much I talk for women, it is only an understanding. It's an outside view. The inside view, even Gandhiji has said in some place, how does it feel to be the father of the nation? He said, now I want to be the mother. It's a wanting to be. When we venerate women, we respect it. If you say, I disagree with you when you say that most of my films, because you see in Hera, the women are very strong. It's the weaker sex in that film is Saket Ram himself. He doesn't have a clear view, and it's women who change him. Somebody calls him a brother, and suddenly he feels bad about it. Somebody's wife thinks of him, and he just let him into a butcher shop to be butchered to death. All that changes him. And if you take Virumandi is yet again exactly like the bull that charges out of the pen for the Jallikattu.
And Annalakshmi comes in.
Annalakshmi and his Apata, that is the grandma, are the only two sculpting tools that he has. When he loses them both, he is eyeless.
So while we are in the topic of women, Raghav had an interesting question to ask you.
Hello, sir. We've been changing roles from being Narayan to Narayan to Uttavagan. On that front, I was observing your personal life from what I know from the media. You had like 2 failed marriages. And in 2012, I think, in Hindustan, I know the interview said, marriage as an institution is an imposition to the society. Do you still believe that? Do you believe that marriages are
More so.
more so? I was curious to know more about your views on that. And
No, someone asked me in a Malayalam television that in Malayalam they said, is it not against our Sanskriti that you've gone and married so many times? I said, what is your Sanskriti? And what is your Kalacharam that you say that I have? Why don't you think of it that I am following Ram's father? I have another 40,000 and odd to go. So what are you talking about? I mean, what is Kalacharam? I mean, this is very new in that. I mean, even the law. I mean, my grandfather was married twice, not because of need. One died and he remarried again. But there are other grandfathers I know who had 3, 4 wives. That is before the advent of British IPC imposed on India. So it depends. I was just saying that Mahabharata is all about polygamy. And in Ramayana, only the hero, one character, son of a father with many wives, who's probably seen his father suffer and decides against. So the men are slowly becoming wiser and wiser and wiser till they become me.
So to follow up on that, your daughters also agree on a similar viewpoint, or they have a...
Gigi?
Do your daughters also share the same viewpoint, or they have different...
No, they're different people. I can't influence them with my idea. I owe it to them because my father did not impose his Iyengar Shariat on me. He just let me be. When at 11, when I refused to wear the jenu, he thought about it and smiled and said, let him be. One rap on the nape of my neck and I would have become a Brahmin. But he didn't do it. I respect him for that. And he let me go the other way, to the other end of the spectrum, amble my way. And I didn't even do it surreptitiously. Walked to that end, and we still had conversation till he died. And he was a God-worshipping believer and a Brahmin.
So just to finally close on that, you said certain values, certain things have an expiry date. Perhaps that's what was the expiry date after which Ram became a monogamous person. People started following.
No. See, it's a little trick when you choose a story to become the popular thing. You choose an icon. Ram was chosen for us by the British.
Krishna was also chosen, I guess.
No, not by the British. If you watch carefully, Ram takes dominance in every other thing. And then it is Ganpati. Now, I'm talking the populace. If the other gods are angry, I can't help. But that's one wrath I don't fear now. But I'm scared of human beings more.
Rightly so. Tammy, do you want to ask your question next?
Sure. Thank you so much for being here this evening. You spoke a little bit about how movies and people interact, what the roles they play. I would like to understand a little bit more about your relationship to movies, what you think about them, what do they actually mean to you? Because I've grown up watching a lot of your movies, you invest more time, effort into these projects more than most people, even if they don't capture popular interest. And the follow-up question to that is, when you entered into the industry, what objectives or goals did you have? What did you think you would be 2-3 decades down, 2-3 decades later? Have you gotten to those places? Has it evolved? Just to get your thoughts on that.
Yes, we had a clear agenda, and I wanted to be here 20 years back. I was ready now, but well, better late than never. I'm very happy. I should have come here not through this door, but through that door and gone to the other building where the classrooms are. I should have, I could have, but I didn't. So there are so many plans you start with. At least I could have gone to a film school, which I wanted to, but my career started when I was 18. So before I could make my decisions, then it became great sacrifice to let go of something and go learn all over again. So I said, okay, I'll take the slow route. I'll work and learn, and I've not stopped till then. In a way, it's good, because if I had gotten a diploma or a degree or a master's, I would have stopped there. I would have called myself a filmmaker. Now I still call myself a student of cinema, which is a better place to be. Because my teachers keep changing. They're becoming younger and younger and younger. So what I think of cinema is the kind of cinema I want to see is the kind of cinema I want to make. If I'm yet to achieve that goal, because I see some fantastic films. I'm trying to emulate them. In one movie, you achieve one corner, one contour is similar to the kind of films you liked and respected. But somewhere else, you can't hold it all together. It takes. And that's also because our industry, in spite of being 100-year-old, is still a nascent, untrained industry. Everybody is an ekalavya there. And the dronas take more than fingers away. They take the brain.
So, because we came back to education, I'll take it back to Vikram, who wanted to ask you a follow-up question from your speech yesterday.
Sir, before asking this question, I'd like to just skip over this intellectual conversation that's happening, and I'd like to consider myself as representing the numerous diehard Kamalians who are here and who couldn't make it to this room. So I know you hate being addressed this way, but
It's ironic that I am losing my gods and you're making one more.
So my question to you, I guess, is ever since I read the news about, ever since I read the news, I was fascinated to know how Mr. Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi was instrumental in connecting two individuals, or rather two intellectuals, who have totally contrasting backgrounds. I'm talking about your meeting with Dalai Lama. So if you can share a few snippets of the conversation that you had with him,
And also, as a follow-up, I also want to know that yesterday you mentioned a line about how you think theory of evolution and ahimsa are cross with each other. So if you can elaborate a little bit more on that, it would be very happy.
Mr. Dalai Lama was very interesting. Once again, I respect them not with the halo behind their head like their other bugs would do. For me, Gandhiji is Gandhiji and Dalai Lama ji is Dalai Lama ji. And it was fantastic meeting him because I met a man. I didn't meet the pontiff of that religion. The first thing he did was hold my hand and Gautami's hand and took it like that. We were like his grandchildren, or children, whatever. And we spoke, and he has not seen a movie at all. So we were well positioned as just human beings to like each other. I don't know what he thought of me, but I liked him. And he's a worldly wise man, and he's doing something what another hero of mine did, win freedom in a unique way without battle. So that's something which is very rare. It's unique. India has become that model for the world to emulate. And I wanted to meet him for that reason. Not because I was checking. People thought that here is this rationalist slowly losing his path and trying to grope his way towards back to religion. And he wants to come through the back door, probably through Buddhism, and enter the house again. But that's not what it is. For me, religion was yet another tool like battle or politics to shape the society that we are. And some are now redundant. And what is the other question about?
Yesterday you had mentioned how you think ahimsa and theory of evolution.
Well, that's a big battle inside me. I don't have answers because I know both are truths. It's not inimitable, it's possible, but one is harder because one is natural. It comes within it's imprinted on my DNA. That's what Darwin is talking about, survival. I'll kill to survive. That is the nature of me, us. I think the ascent of man coming to the top of the food chain is because we are omnivorous. I'm a strong advocate of saying that we shouldn't lose our omnivority. Even economists will agree with me. If you look at the larger food need for the country. So omnivority will save us a lot of problems if we become more and more exclusive in our eating habits. And we'll become dangerously reliant on unavailable food. And as it is, nowhere in the history have so few people started feeding so many before we found our own food. Now we have brands feeding us. I can't speak of this in a business school because you're taught to do that. But there is no yes and no for all questions. There's also Poe, as Edward de Bono says. There's a lateral thinking. There should be a third way. And we will find it. And make a business out of it again.
So, changing gears a little bit, I'll hand it over to Rajesh, who wanted to ask you more about the movie industry itself.
Good afternoon, sir. I'm a doctoral student here. Needless to say, I grew up watching your movies, and the top three my list are Uttama Vellu, KR, and Vikram. My question today is about the problem of piracy in the Indian movie industry in general. Trying to get a sense of how much is the problem really is in terms of like the revenue lost to the producer itself. The second I'm trying to understand is what's the root cause of this problem itself? Is it because of the domestic audience who can't afford to go to the cinemas, or is it because of the international audience to whom the contents do not reach? And finally, I'm trying to get a sense of how much will this change with Netflix entering into the Indian market?
I hope so, because I've been trying to seal the hole in the bucket. I've been trying to say this while I was in the country. People shouldn't think that I came out of the country and I'm emboldened, I'm speaking more truths than I usually do. That's not the case. There's a hole in the bucket. The whole country is suffering, not even the film industry, not just the film industry. Black money is something which can be only used, if you look at it, I mean, I might be dramatic now, for black deeds. You cannot, maybe someone would say that, well, you can give it to a beggar, then it becomes a good deed. I still think that's a black deed. You must give him a job and not find your way to paradise by paying him. That's a cheap way of going to Swarg. Paying a beggar. You'll have to work your way to Swarg, even if you believe that there is one. For me, this is my paradise. I got to work and water it, make it blossom, and I think the hole in the bucket will have to be sort of sealed, and that is transparency. So it is not some pirate who's ruining the industry and coming by night and stealing. These people intentionally allow black money to flourish because they can cheat their partners, cheat their government, and cheat the tax payer. And what do you do with that money? You really don't know. You'll send it to Swiss bank or... So somebody asked me to say, how can you talk in favor of thrift VCD, as they call it? Because people want it. How do you tell them don't buy it? Because I say it's wrong. I won't say don't buy it. I'm telling you why, to the industry, why are you not selling it? There is a need and you're not meeting it. You're not supplying the demand. And some other entrepreneur is doing it. The fact is, it's not reaching the fountainhead. It's drying. That has to be addressed, for which there should be more transparency. All of those, there's enough for everybody's need. Once again, I quote Mr. Karamchand Gandhi. There's enough for everybody's need, but not enough for even one man's greed. Because you want to be the greatest emperor of the world, then you take away food which is due to somebody else, which is intended for somebody else. So your question is my disease. That's what is killing me slowly. So nobody is thinking of the medicine. And this is simple. It's right in front of us. It's collective decision that you'll have to take. This is not a nascent industry that they don't know and they're fumbling about. They've been doing it for 100 years. Now they're cannibalizing. They're eating their own fingers instead of food. So that's what, then they won't have any more fingers to count all their wealth. They do that. But that's what is happening. The theater prices, let me tell you, not without naming because I'm not here to blow the whistle. Vishwarupam in one theater sold tickets continuously for 2 weeks at 700 rupees per ticket. And my DCR read that on the first week it dropped. And the ticket rate given to me was 70 rupees. That's the kind of cheating some people are doing. But the theatre owners' mindset is changing. I have met a lot of people who want to go, who want to make their theatres good and charge money. And now the government comes again and puts a cap on how much I can sell my ticket on. They don't say that to Coca-Cola, they don't say that to Mercedes-Benz. Everybody is drinking Coca-Cola. You won't die without cinema, you won't die without Coca-Cola. Water, maybe, that's a different thing. But we are like, it's entertainment, it's not essential service. So the government need not come and put a cap on it to save the people. But that's what is happening. Nobody is addressing it. Nobody is going to the government and saying, don't do that. If there is a strong voice coming from the industry telling that you have no right to do that because treat us like every other business and we'll show you that we are as good as IT. We'll open another corridor for the government to collect taxes from. We could increase the exchequer's income by 1,000 crores if they do some little modifications.
Given that most of the political leaders have cinema as their background in one way or the other, why do you think they're not empathetic to the industry where they originally began their careers from?
I don't know, I call it the Herod or the Kamsa syndrome. They're worried about the child that might be born and become the next king. So they start killing the children. Hunt out and kill the children. So that's what is happening. I call it the Herod or Kamsa syndrome. Kans.
So, Kaushik, you had an interesting follow-up question to Rajesh's question.
So I had a couple of questions on professional, I think, two different aspects of the film industry in Tamil and more broadly in India, which is the first one around film production, which has essentially led to only people with access to the film industry who are able to come in, specifically actors. And the second one was film distribution, where, for example, when you are trying to release a movie directly on DTH, there was a photo and you have to back out. Which has sort of made the industry stuck on not adopting any technology or innovation like video on demand. So my question is on how and when do you think both film production and distribution in India would get professionalized?
It's almost it's a question, but if they take it in the right sense, it could also be an insult. And I wish somebody will take umbrage. The skin has become so thick with black money that you can call them any names and they don't care. They would like to wallow in that slush which they won't know what to do with. That slush money, you can never use it for good purpose, and they don't not build another theater. If they want to build another theater, they need that kind of money, but they're not thinking in those terms. They're living by the day. And this is a question which both saddens, angers, and makes me smile. I become neurotic with a question like this. I do all of it together simultaneously. The thing is, when will you become professional as an industry? Is the basic question we'll have to ask ourselves. It's strange that it comes from the outside. The thing is, yesterday when I said, welcome to my industry, fortunately, even after 100 years, the actual users have not put back anything, no more seeding the industry. They just left it. They've lived like gypsies. So it's still a nascent industry for people like you to get into. I see only that happening. There's a dialogue in one of my films that the planter may not live to see or eat the fruit. The only pride is that I sowed the seed. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm sowing the seed. I may not see you become a big entrepreneur but it can happen. In today's time, with technology moving at this pace and dispersal through Netflix and other things we are talking about, and it's on the platforms are going to coagulate, come together more. There's going to be no separate space for like a film theater. You and I could do the same meeting even today without me coming here. And it could, so many things are going to happen now. and the platforms are changing, and it's about the time when the old protectionist system will simply wither away. But that's too slow a process. We're imitating nature now. While it's business, we don't have to be that slow. We can move forward and take away old stuff and feed it to the bonfire.
Since you said taking away the old stuff, Rohan had a question. Where's Rohan? Okay.
Dr. Haasan, thanks for being here. My name is Rohan, but according to you, a lot of you should be with Rohan. So my question really relates to your wealth of experience and achievement. So I just pulled up the numbers. You started your career in 1959 as a child, acted in more than 200 movies, 4 National Film Awards, 2 Filmfare Awards, 17 Filmfare Awards South. So my question is, what does it take? What does it take to be successful in cinema nowadays, and how does it compare to the past when you started off your career?
Well, that's a mantra I wish I knew, because I'll do that every time to be successful. Well, that comes after some time, you take it for granted and you fail. That's a good way. I can tell you how to fail. Like Edison, I know 1,000 ways of how not to do it. But success is something which, like in any other industry, is not elusive if you have the right vision. You have to look at the right point and shoot a little ahead of your target, because your target is moving. So is technology. So it's a hunter's technique of, when you're seeing a moving target, shoot a little ahead. Think, envision, that's where it's going to be. And when you move that way, I think success will come. Not easily, but it will come. There will still be hits and misses till you get used to holding the trigger, watching, not getting excited when you have the target, and you go, I'm now looking at this. This is what I meant, the fight within me. I was talking ahimsa a moment, next I'm teaching you hunting techniques of how to kill. So that's my problem. But about comparisons, about how it was and how it is, it's fantastic now. I'm happy to be alive and working. Let me tell you, I think my brother Shivaji's son won't mind, because we can now talk about it. Actors were underpaid. Shivaji Sahab used to get 3 lakhs and 4 lakhs per film. Though there was this talk of MGR getting 10 lakhs per film, it was not true all the time. So, okay, but then someone told me, yeah, but then when they were getting 3 lakhs and 7 lakhs, idli in Chennai cost only 10 paisa. Fine. Now 1 idli costs 1 rupee. Make it 2. So that is 20, 30 times, isn't it? But then my remuneration should be only 20, 30 times that. It's not. It's more than 100 times. So that's how successful cinema is. And for a moment, I know how hard they worked, much harder than us. The lights were hotter, techniques were tacky, industry was nascent, they had to do everything in the analogous mode, and they were paid less. I see this only going up, not down, because we've captured, with the population increase is also one of the reasons. Now I'm trying to push it further by putting the tariff up to international standards. But then we must also make films to that standard, because then my customer is going to ask, what have you given for my $7? I've seen DiCaprio's film, Alejandro's, Indurati's film, and how does it compare? I pay $7 for that, and I pay $7 for this. There I see a whole herd of bulls going across the screen. What I see in your film is what they defecated. I wish more of you ask these questions.
Pooja, do you want to go next?
Thank you so much for being here today. I wanted to ask, who do you consider to be the audience for your films? And do you think about how they'll be received by Indian people who are living in the US or in other countries?
See, the best way to find, instead of going, there's a story, it's a mythological story about the two sons of Shiva were tested for their brilliance by the parents, and they were asked to go around the world. Whoever does it quickly will get a particular present, a fruit. And so Lord Subramanya sat on his peacock, poor bird, and flew around the world. It took him some time, but he did it in a flash. But his elder brother is slightly abused and retarded, but brilliant in the mind. He's more like a thalidomide child. But he went around his parents and pleased them. That's an unfair test. If I am Lord Muruga, I'd be truly angry. He was. And it's unfair because he was just sucking up to his parents and trying to please them. That's not the correct answer. That's not. But then, in a way, I do this. I don't go around the world taking senses of who likes what in my film. It's even simpler. Because I am part of the society. If I truly test myself, I can speak for the demography called at least Tamilians, if not Indians. At least South Indians, if not all of India. And that's what I've been doing. That's why it's as simple as that. I make the films that I want to see. And I see successful films. I like them for that quality. I mentioned Indurati's name because I admire him. Look at the boundaries he's pushing every time. And that's what we should do. So that's what I do. Maybe if I have enough apparatus and people, I might do the study. But it's taking too long for me. All the success I've had is first tested on me. And to tell you the truth, what I doubted, you disliked. It's always, if I have an iota of doubt somewhere, it went downhill. I don't know how fast, it depends. But when I'm very confident, when I'm willing to die for the movie, you sort of reciprocated with similar kind of emotion. That's a movie to die for. When you say that, I say same to you. I've done it for it. To make the movie and reach it to you. That's the thing. That's the truest study in my experience. But it's not scientific. Maybe it is. Human mind is still being worked. We don't know. Some of the unexplained things are actually explainable in the synapses, how they go. There is actually a science to how I discover what I should do. There's so much science. If you make a robotic somersault, it's too much science. But actually, if you practice, you're doing so many things, 1,000 things your brain does before you land on your feet. And it takes only half a second. So I trust this instinct, and I'm successful so far.
You said you could be a good representative of South India. So Ameya had a question about integrating the North and the South.
My question was more about collaboration. To your point around the audience has been primarily in South India. Some of us have definitely missed seeing some good content coming out of, say, regional films. And traditionally, the Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, Telugu film industry have always operated in silos. So we've seen some form of interaction between, say, actors moving from one to the other. But what do you think is needed to get the film industry collaborating more and generate content?
The thing is, first, India should stop saying Hindi is the language we speak. Having said that, I don't say that Hindi is not the language we speak. Hindi is also the language we speak. If only we had not lost Bangladesh or Pakistan, Bengali would have been the largest spoken language. Look at it. Look at the demographic. Could be. They could have contested for it at least. So what I'm saying is we decided to have unity in spite of the diversity. We must respect. I keep telling my Maharashtrian friends, how could you let a thriving industry just disappear? I'm not saying that Hindi cinema shouldn't be in Bombay. As a matter of fact, we take pride in saying that Chennai is a national center for cinema because how many Bombay producers have made Telugu, Tamil, Kannada films? Except Shantaramji, because he's a Maharashtrian, he made Marathi films and Hindi films. But how many people from up north, take a Punjabi producer, has made a Tamil film? But I will tell you about 20 who made Hindi films. AVM, they did Hindi films. Haasan Saab made Hindi films. Ramanaidu made Hindi films. Sitting in Chennai. Ram or Sham was made in Chennai. The famous Kagas Ke Phool by Gurudat Saab was mostly shot in Chennai. I mean, so that doesn't matter. I'm not saying that Chennai should be the center. Kashmir could be. It's my country. But we must celebrate the diversity, which the country is not. Well, it started with food. Let's hope it comes to cinema too.
Rahul Srinivasan, do you want to ask? We just have 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll open the floor to the audience. Rahul, do you want to go?
Yeah, so I have a question that's tangentially related to democratization of access. So, like, do you think, in your opinion, is the rise of low-budget, non-mainstream movies without, star casts, is it changing the face of Tamil cinema right now?
It always did. I belong to that. Mr. Balchandra took a nobody and made him into a star. 2 of us, Mr. Rajinikanth and me. And he just picked up these people. We didn't. Nobody knew. We could go and stand in the queue of the film we were acting in. Nobody will recognize us. But after the show, they'll throng around us. That's the magic of Mr. K. Balachandra. I worked 36 films with him, which in itself is fantastic training. I could have worked more. I think his anger and my ego came in the way. But then we made up when it was too late and he had to go.
So,
I think somebody.
Good evening, take the last comment about Hindi is one of the other languages of India. Do you think, as you watch international film movies in next languages, instead of dubbing it, do you think India will have a market outlet for economics purposes to say Tamil movie, or Korea movie, or a Bengali movie, or a Telugu movie, make them Hindi subtitle or Bengali subtitle? Will people go and watch it?
As a matter of fact, sir, I was in Tamil Nadu at the height of Hindi agitation. So I missed out on watching some of my favorite Hindi movies when I should have watched them. I caught up with Gurudat and I discovered and I found some of them were dead. And I caught up with, I wanted to meet them. As a matter of fact, Yusuf Saab is still my favorite Indian actor, that is Mr. Dilip Kumar. And I met him after Ek Duje Ke Liye, which was sudden success, and I had this great opportunity of shaking hands with my favorite actor. And I had not seen many of his films till I started acting in Hindi films. So one particular film, Ganga Jamuna, I saw 3 days before I met him. So I was this captive fan, and I shook his hand and I said, fantastic movie. He was still acting in movies. So he said, yeah, which one? And when I said Ganga Jamuna, he thought it was a snide joke. He did that. Then I had to explain my history and my ignorance. And I think I lost a lot because of that. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite films, I went there to see what this Mussalman called Mahmood has made fun of Tamilians. We must go and see it. So the gang of toughies, we were not toughies, we were small boys. So we went there to voice our concern, and we came out as fans of Mr. Mahmood. I still am. I think Padosan was fantastic, the way he emulated. Nobody has done Tamilians that close thing at that time. Now they are even better imitation. But what you're saying is right. Subtitle. We should exchange. We must. It started with food. Now all the Punjabi dishes are there in Paramakudi, a village I come from. So that should happen with cinema also. I'm going a step further. The whole conversation here, I don't know how many Tamils, Hindis, Marathis, Malayalis, and Telugus are here, but it happened in English. We are an English-speaking nation. That is a fulcrum we should use. We could become international by this virtue, ahead of China, who is our competitor in the same business, in volume. We can match that. And, they have very wisely not settled on dialoguing, but they've used their martial arts, which has no language. So we can do that and more. We can use our dance or martial arts and plus make it in English. So that's my...
I'll just one more question here from Inchara, and then we'll open it out to the audience.
So thanks for coming here. We all know how you're such an amazing actor and dancer and very talented. But more impressive is that how much you participate in charity drives and donation drives, and so much that you give back. I mean, very few people who, once they reach that stage, actually give back to the society. My question is, do you have any plans about investing in startups or improving the economy in a different way, such that, or maybe investing in something which would actually abolish
To tell you the truth, because of the dire state my industry is in, I myself am a startup. So I think I would aspire to be what you want me to be. But that's all I can do right now. I don't want to do the picking.
I've been fascinated by your atheist team in your movies in Ambassador and Dasavara. And my question is, in Kamal 50 program, you have mentioned that atheists are the ones who are going to promote brotherhood and humanity. Can you elaborate on that? And my lighter question is, you have talked about the Mahabharata. So with the advancement of CGI now, would you consider making a movie based on Hindu mythology character? If yes, who instead would you play?
The first question again, because I went to the...
So, if you look at Dasavara, you say, no.
No.
So, in that one, on that note, in Kamal 50 also, you mentioned that atheists are the ones who are going to promote humanity and brotherhood.
It's not atheists, people who are rational. See, atheists are people who take a side. Tomorrow, if you actually bring God, I'll have a conversation. My only problem is I won't worship. I'll initiate a conversation. I have a lot of questions to ask of him. And they're angry questions. So if you really can't bring him, I don't mind. I don't mind. I'm not going to be worshiping him. So is that attitude, there's nothing called a settled position in rationality or science. If you settle yourself, that's not science anymore. There's nothing called settled science. It shouldn't. Maybe physics, I don't know, but science.
As the Hindu mythology character, which one would you pick?
There are a lot. I think there is a translation of my short story called Anaya Niruppu. It's about Sita's love when she was in Sri Lanka. But everybody read it, they liked it, there was no agitation, nothing. Because it's said with compassion, it's not said from an atheist point of view. There's no God bashing in that. It's simply a point of view. I'd like to make a film called Lankeshwar, which is already an existing play. And it is, the play itself is derived from what is read as Ramayana in Laos. It's called Reemkar. It was an allegory on Ramayana written by Buddhists, but that itself became a holy book for certain people. The purpose was defeated. Ram won again.
Thank you for being here. Is there are multiple occasions that you see
I can't see you. Yeah.
you said on multiple occasions that you see yourself more as a director than an actor. And the few films that you've directed, you've shown that you know the craft of filmmaking as opposed to directors who just make hit movies.
I can't hear. A little. Sorry.
So yeah, my question is about you're actually a director who knows the craft of filmmaking, and you've shown that in a few films that you've directed. And so why haven't we seen you as a full-fledged director? And do you have plans for that?
You want the around the bush answer or? No. It's not what you want because you're the audience now. I'll have to deliver. Okay, let me come straight to the point. There's not much money for actors. All the money goes to actors. So that's why. So otherwise I'd love to be a director. I came here to be a director. Unless I find a way like Mr. Spielberg or Lucas, you can't, that's a lot of money, much more money than DiCaprio can make.
So did the commercial failure prepare you in some sense?
It did, because it's my mistake, because I assumed my countrymen knew the history as well as I did. I'll tell you why, because just before the release, a 22-year-old technician working in an important position in the film, during shooting said, "Sir, Godse is an Indian." I just looked at him, I thought, I was waiting for the punchline, there wasn't anything. He really thought he's a foreigner who killed Gandhi. The British came here, ruled, killed Gandhi, and I think it's a simpler story. But that's not how it happened. So that's the understanding you had. Nobody knew what happened those 3 months when, without any dictator directing it, orchestrating it, we killed more people than Hitler did, very quickly. We didn't reach the full score, though, but at that pace, we could have beaten them. Another 3 months or 4 months, and we could have beaten them. And in a way, death of Gandhi stopped it. Suddenly, it was like cold water in the face, that winter. So that, for me, Aram was special, and I should have prepped it more, in the sense, told them about the film. It's simple technique, it's more my bad.
We'll take a question from the center row because we've had one from both sides. Can we please choose, because if people start talking like this, we're not going to go anywhere. So there's this lady in the red here, she's been raising her hands for quite some time.
Good evening, sir. I'm Sujata, and I'm visiting my daughter who teaches at Harvard from India. My question to you is, in a democratic India, do we need a censor board? I'm asking you this question because I'm also into theatre, a part of the Bangalore Little Theatre. And I feel as people in theatre and cinema, and these art forms are just not only for entertainment, it goes beyond that. It involves political activism and also social criticism. And when these come under the scrutiny of the state, I think they need to be autonomous and they have to be kept far away.
Okay, a question has to be a question. I'm sorry, I'll cut you short there and let him answer. Yes, sir, if you could take this.
It is still a question for me.
Yeah.
Though it sounds like an answer. The thing is, first I'd like to clarify, ma'am, the battle against censor is in a progressive state, and that's why they are not called censor board anymore. They are a certification board, but still old habits die hard. They're still at it, and we want that to go away. But certification should be there so that it, like a statutory warning, that you make your decision. I mean, if you're going to drink your nose drops, who's going to stop you? Or your ear drops? Or you're going to eat up all your mosquito lotion, which you're not supposed to imbibe. But it should be written on the bottle. Somebody should tell you that this lotion for application on the skin, not to be imbibed. Don't take it near your eyes or whatever. That's what I think should be the duty of the state in warning the people, and then it's their lookout. It's like how we place our plugs to keep it out of reach of children. You can't keep the plug somewhere where it's also out of reach for us. So I think certification board is not a bad idea because it tells, but that's like a car number, which state it comes from, that kind of a thing. So that's where we want them to stop. But the rest of it should be, as a matter of fact, one censor board chief was thrown out. He was a filmmaker, Goldie Anand Saab, who's no more. And he was an advocate of saying, allow XXX films. Separate them from the films that my children see. Because now they're interpolating it all into one film, in one packet, so the family can come see. The grandfather can get X-rated entertainment, the children can see cartoon entertainment, all in one film. So he says at least if you have X-rated films, this interpolation of stuff which is not good for the mental health of these people will be separated. It's easier. The businessman's avarice will be fed.
So one from this row again, that gentleman there behind him, yeah.
Sir, by the way, I shook hands with you when I was 9 years old back in the Vizag airport, so good to meet you again.
Big hands, now.
My heart is actually pounding, trust me. Much is actually made of the word intolerance. We keep the word intolerance back in India.
Yeah.
Much is made of it, we keep hearing it again and again. Some of your peers have openly expressed their concerns. Where do you stand on, is intolerance a real thing in India right now? Has it changed over the years?
Let me come from another angle. I'm against the word tolerance. You don't tolerate, you accept a friend. If you say, so I'm against the word tolerance. not to be mistaken for ahimsa and hinsa, because there's some vague blur between those things. But when I say, why should you tolerate anything? Don't tolerate anything. You don't tolerate pain. It's only pain. It's only with pain that you tolerate it. So, if it's a view, you must either accept it or not accept it. Why do you tolerate it? So, intolerance is there because you're tolerating it. Don't tolerate. Accept the Muslim as your co-citizen. Don't tolerate him. Accept the Hindu. Then the problem is solved and we won't have intolerance. It's because tolerance is there, intolerance is there. Accept it because you are not going to take away the green in the Indian flag. It's a sweater that's already knit with green thread woven into it. You can't just there's no sweater left then. We've already lost our sleeves. It's a sleeveless sweater. Bangladesh and Pakistan are gone. So let's keep the sweater. It's getting cold. The weather is changing.
So, we've crossed our time, but we can still do this for another 6-7 minutes if it's okay with everyone, if it's okay with you, sir. So this lady here.
Manakanga, I'm Varuni. My question is about freedom of speech. Donald Trump has been bashing the Muslims, women, and a reporter was doing his debate. If freedom of speech can mean speaking one's mind and being sensational to attract voters, don't you think we are setting a bad precedent in the United States?
It could be, I might be campaigning for the other party. I don't want to do that because I don't know how bad or how good the man is. So I don't want to take that chance. But since you started in Tamil, நான் சொல்றேன் அவர் காலை வர்றதுலேருந்து தலை வர்றது வரைக்கும் So, well, that's a Tamil joke. I don't know how I could translate it. So, but so I think it's sensationalism is okay. I can say things about Mr. Trump that will get me an applause and laughter, but that's not how I should also talk. I should be more responsible than him, at least. I'm not going to be president of this country, so I don't care. I can say anything. If I'm being careful, then his responsibility is 20 times more, as many times as the population of America. And I think to be the father of a nation, you must reach parenthood. The right intellectual puberty must be to reach it, to reproduce something, you must have the organs. And
so that gentleman in blue.
Hi, my question here. So I heard
the mic, please.
I heard from the news that you were giving like very good review. You were awestruck by Visaar, the new movie. So do you think movies like that should be remade in Hollywood? Like, when do you think and how do you think that transition can happen?
I'd like to quote someone who made fun of Oscar Wilde. Oscar Wilde, it seems, said in a congregation of writers, someone said something very nice. Oscar Wilde was sometimes unjustly criticized for plagiarism. He picked up the best from one, put it together, is what they say that. But so someone said something very nice, and Mr. Wilde wanted to compliment him and said, "Wow, that's very good. I wish I had said that." To which the man replied, "You will, Oscar, you will." And that's what I say, they will. They will. They must be already thinking of it because as I know it, it's happening and it will happen. And this exchange is good. I'm not making fun of it. It should happen, and I'm glad that Balamendra has created a team of filmmakers, one of them being Vetrimaran. I think Balamendra always complained to me that he's late, he didn't have time. But in retrospect, I think his life was complete. He has created many people to continue his job, which is about the primary duty of anybody to leave a legacy, not just children. They are just a genetic copy of you. I'm talking the intellectual copy of you.
With you quoting intellectual, I want to quote something where like my dad saw like the preview show of Unbasivam sitting next to you. I don't know if you remember.
Okay, so we'll take that offline. Okay, this gentleman here. Yeah.
I just like to, you said you won't be the president of this country. You said you wouldn't be the president of this country. I just like to point out that you have been the president of this country before, Spain. So I'd like to tap into your imagination a little. And if you were to make a sci-fi movie in the future, what sort of technology would you like to see in that movie? Or even in real life, what sort of technology would you like to see?
Losing language, cognition is all that is required. I've written an article about a congregation where nobody talks, but everybody understands. There's a silent debate going on. I think that's a great sign, premise for a thing. Everybody can understand each other, and there's no language, there's no music, because they are it. They can hear music, they don't have to create it. And they can just pass on the tunes without sound. It sounds like as crazy as when they said they were trying to explain the effects of LSD. You can hear paintings and see music.
So this person here.
Sir, vanakkam. My name is Swaminathan. Needless to say, Tamil and I'm fan. Couple of years back, we got to know that, there was a news that you're going to act in a Hollywood movie. So would we get a chance to watch you starring in a Hollywood movie, sitting in America?
Yeah, we are now working, I don't mind talking about it here. We're working on a script. I'm working with 3 of my American friends, writing it. I hope to direct that film also, and it will be in English.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
I just want to ask one final question to you here, because I think it's important for the country to hear this from you right now. In an industry where generally machoism is favored, where Misa is a very important symbol for manliness and all that, you have boldly done feminine roles like Avaishanmugi or Visan Vishwarubam and all that. And I think this is particularly relevant in this context where, we're trying to decriminalize homosexuality in our country, where we're trying to get people comfortable with their identities. So I wanted to know what's your stance on this issue, because it's pretty pertinent for us at this point.
I've written a story. I stopped writing short stories because I got flack for writing a story when I was 25. When it was important to prove that I was a man. So I was a man in this world. So it was the retribution, the attack that came on me. I was just looking at it as a great subject to write, because it's one of the oldest things. It's almost as old as the oldest profession in the world. So, I don't know, they say it's unnatural. Why would it have been there if it is unnatural? That's my question. And we look at Aristotle and Alexander. What is their relationship apart from the learning and teaching imparted? They were also lovers. It was natural in that world at that time. It's nothing shocking. So we've seen it. It's been there. It's all humbug to say that it was never there in India. It would have been there because we were adjacent cultures. We were watching each other. So it's a choice. I can't force you to eat octopus. You don't like it because you think that vegetarianism is good. I can't stop anybody from being a vegetarian. It's a choice. And it's a very personal choice. Well, it will be very difficult for me to kiss a man with a beard, but that's only my problem. So I've been trained that way, perhaps. If in another society, if I had been a student with Alexander, my thought of it would have been different. See, we are talking about machoism. We are talking about two men, Alexander and his friend, go to war. They battle. They face death, come back and become lovers. Well, it's a sofa come bed situation.
Just one last audience question and then we'll close the event. This is really hard.
That's why I said I won't choose.
Yeah, that lady here with the blue jacket.
Namaskaram, sir.
Namaskaram.
I've been trying to talk to you since yesterday, but I got the chance now. On behalf of everybody, there's so many people who want to ask the same question to you. Is there some particular role which is very close to your heart that you haven't had a chance to act in the past that you want to act in the future? And is there anything in that role which would carry a message for youngsters?
See, I'll leave the message to, you have your cell phone. Message is easier that way. I don't have to spend so much money to send a message. So, an SMS would do the trick. But yes, there are many roles. Maradhanayakam is one which I couldn't do. And there are roles that I'd like to redo again. I can do better. So these are things, yes, you'll see all that hopefully happening in a short span of time.
Okay. So with this, we'll conclude this session. Thank you so much, sir, for being here and spending all this time with us.